This video is brought to you by NordVPN, the best online VPN service for speed and security. Check out the link in the description, or stick around till the end of the video to learn more. There are a few things that really frustrate me and undermine good public transport. Rubber-tired trains, terribly infrequent service, and bad signage and wayfinding. But there is one thing that has been more harmful to discussions about public transportation, advocacy around public transportation, and people's actual ability to understand where they can and cannot go. The biggest lie in the history of transit, if you will. The simple phrase, "it's served." You might be wondering what I mean when I say it's served, so let me explain. The fundamental idea here is that in all kinds of different scenarios, from airports to hotels to small towns that refuse to spend any serious money on public transportation, a saying you'll often hear is the phrase, X, Y, or Z is served by public transport. Now, sometimes this is just out and out dishonesty. You know, this train line runs vaguely near my housing development, so your home that you're considering buying is served by public transportation. This is the kind of basic frustration that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, and it's really easy to dismiss if you actually have the right information and if it's easily available to you. But trust me, this gets much worse. You see, the issue of claiming a place is served is also sometimes a matter of debate. The airport here in Toronto is served by an air rail link, like a lot of airports. But if I'm trying to catch a flight at an ungodly hour or working an early shift at the airport, as many people do, then the trains starting at 5:30 a.m. or so aren't going to feel like they're of much use to me, are they? The airport doesn't feel served. Is it served? Perhaps, but not during those time periods. Imagine this colossal station structure. Its excuse for existing is that it's served by a high-capacity rail transit line. But is it really served? If only 4 trains a day come here and they all go into the city in the morning and come back out in the afternoon, can we really say it's served? Who can make that judgment? As a wise person once said, the reality with transit is it isn't something you entirely build, it's something you operate. Of course, to varying extents, what you build determines what you can operate. But building a nice station or facility or whatever does not mean you've built public transport, especially if I can't just turn up and get a bus or a train or complete my trip. But there's something even more concerning than what I've just talked about. Well, I can imagine someone who doesn't really use transit or doesn't really care about the experience of using transit, not understanding that 1 train or bus per day doesn't matter to me if it's not going where I want, when I want. But there's something very concerning I see in cities where you'd imagine transit is very well understood. And I think it's important to preface it with the question, what does it mean for transit to serve some place? One frequent trend I've seen a lot of, especially in cities building new transit, whether that be a subway line, tram, light rail, or new busways, is that the planning or design of that transit is oriented around the idea of replacing whatever came before it. For example, removing a local bus service that runs near a new tram or subway or other form of transit. You see, there's a lot of problems with that, and probably the biggest of them is the simplistic interpretation that a train or tram is somehow inherently better than a bus. It's an upgrade, and thus there's no need for the bus once you have the train, right? We've built something better along the corridor, so what came before is clearly irrelevant. That's a view that's easy to take from 30,000 feet, but it's not unreasonable to ask, what about the people between the stops, or people traveling when the trains won't be running? Transit modes don't exist in a simple hierarchy from cheap and bad to expensive and good. There's a complex matrix of considerations for every single transit mode. Different transit modes provide different services, and even within one mode, say buses, there's a ton of different service types you could operate, and lots of different vehicles which you could choose to do that operation. I've made videos about it in the past. You have a local circulator bus, an express highway bus, and everything in between. Treating all these things as equal shows you don't really understand transit, and it doesn't help build a better, more useful, more helpful transit network. But yet frequently, a bus running on a surface street above a new subway is referred to as wasteful or redundant. Or people insist that the new tram line needs to have a stop at every block because it needs to replace the bus that came before. What if it doesn't? What if the bus plays a different role and that's okay? Imagine inversely if people suggested that local streets only had to exist where highways didn't. At the same time, I frequently hear from people of all stripes, from the public to urban professionals, especially when it comes to town and neighborhood planning, that the simple presence of transit of any kind in any form means that a place is served, and of course not needing of more transit. But that's not true, even if the transit you do have in a place is frequent. I think this again comes from a very simplistic reading of the purpose of public transportation. That is mainly about looking at a piece of land or a certain neighborhood and asking, is there a bus stop here or a rail station? The same way you would look at a new neighborhood and assume that it's served by roads as long as any type of road goes to the neighborhood. The thing is, cars are not public transportation, and having a simple transit line pass through a neighborhood is not the same as it having good public transportation service. Does it matter if you're connected to the electrical grid if there's no electricity flowing through the wires? It's also kind of completely backwards because it's focusing on a specific place instead of all of the places you could go to. Public transportation is about networks. One of the best ways of talking about what I'm discussing here is an Isochrone map, sometimes known as a travel time map, but that sounds a lot less cool. An Isochrone map is essentially a map that shows you how far from a given point you can get in a given period of time, or perhaps more generously, all of the places you can go to in some certain period of time from some certain starting point. What you'll notice when looking at Isochrons with transit is that where you can go can change wildly depending on where you are. Even if two otherwise similar places are both served by transit, that doesn't mean you can go to the same places in the same period of time. Let's look at Toronto for an example. This is Spadina Avenue, and this is the Union Station rail corridor, which carries basically all trains in and out of Toronto. In the center of Spadina Avenue is a streetcar or tram line that provides a frequent, if a little inconsistent, service that operates 24 hours a day, and which connects to some major transportation hubs. Now, as it turns out, plans for this corner call for a major new development, along with all of the other crazy new developments in this area. This area truly is going completely gangbusters, and is now one of the densest neighborhoods in North America. Now, as part of this new development, a new small station will be added that allows people to access one of the many regional rail lines that passes through this area. Now, I've already seen a ton of comments and questions from people asking why we would ever put a station here. Some people mentioned that Union Station is only a short distance away, though I would argue 1 kilometer in one of the densest neighborhoods in North America is a pretty long distance. Others, and I've heard this a lot, question the need for a station when the place is already served by public transport. You've got the streetcar right there. Why do you need a new station? Now, if we look at the Isochrone without the station, things look pretty good. You can go really far in just 30 minutes, thanks to that high-quality transportation offered by the tram. But the amazing thing is, we can see just how impactful the station is when we add it into this map, and when we adjust regional rail services to the 15-minute minimum headways they're supposed to be running in the next couple of years. You can see just how much a single platform opens up the whole region to this place. It's amazing, but despite the fact that the trains run near this place, it's far harder to get to for people all over the place without a station here. Of course, I'm not going to stop there though. In my eyes, a station at this location should serve all of the Western GO lines, given Union Station's inevitable massive congestion, but also given the crazy development in the area and the fact that you do have the nice tram line here. If we built such a station here, the location is still served, but your access to public transportation and all of the people who can get to this location in 30 minutes goes from this to this. All of this should make it pretty obvious that saying somewhere is served is really silly. What we should really be asking is a place connected? And how well is it connected? How frequently is it connected? When is it connected? And where is it connected to? So many elements of transit are important, from having comfortable, beautiful, nice vehicles to having a frequent service that lets you travel when you want. But it's just as important to be able to go to as many places as possible. With the pandemic winding down, I'm beginning to plan out my travel for the next couple of years. I've just done a trip to London this past May, but there are so many amazing transit systems around the world that I've talked about but haven't had the chance to film for myself. This is where today's sponsor, NordVPN, comes in. I always like to travel with a VPN ready on my devices, and Nord has been a stable presence for the past couple of trips I've taken. I use Nord to stay protected while I'm using public Wi-Fi that is always a little bit sketchy when you're traveling. And fortunately, I'm able to connect to a server back home in Canada to access apps and websites that aren't available wherever I am. And of course vice versa when I'm actually home to any of Nord's 5,600 plus servers in 59 countries. With a single NordVPN subscription, I can also get access on up to 6 devices at once on every major platform, so I don't have to worry about being able to access internet safely on my work MacBook and Android phone, or my other personal devices. As you might know, my full-time career is on the internet, so it's even more crucial that I can get my work done safely no matter where I am. NordVPN comes with threat protection, an advanced anti-malware feature that blocks intrusive ads and web trackers, so that my content, my business, and myself can stay safe and I can keep bringing you content. And of course, NordVPN also offers best-in-class speeds, which saves me a ton of time when uploading videos and gives me reliability when streaming.
Go to nordvpn.com/transit to get a 2-year plan plus 4 additional months with a huge discount. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose.